Small confession. Other than YouTube and Facebook, I don't really use a lot of social media. I have an Instagram, but I don't fully understand how to use it, and I have no idea what the hell Snapchat is. But recently, I got on Reddit, and I was surprised by the common theme that ran throughout all the alcohol groups on that site. Almost 75% of the people on there were wondering how to make it past the first 3 months of sobriety, after the quote-unquote pink cloud stage. Everyone was fine for the first few weeks, but then the cravings went out and they drank by month 3. I could relate because they're not wrong. The first couple months are complicated. Think of it like going through a breakup. When you're in a relationship, at the end of the day, you go home, you tell your significant other what happened to you that day, you eat dinner together, you go to sleep next to each other, and then anytime there's an event, you know you have someone to go with. You want to spend all your time with that person because they make you happy. Then, when you break up, you have to learn how to live your life without them. You don't know what to do at events because now you have to go by yourself, and you're constantly wondering if everyone is asking where your partner is. All that history you had with that person is now gone, and it's in the rear view. And all you want to do is text that person and see how they're doing, and maybe get back with them. Sadly, alcoholism is similar to that. Almost sickly identical, actually. Most of us can't get over the breakup. We end up going back because we're in love. Actually, I don't even think of it as in love. We're in safety. Like an abusive partner, alcohol convinced us we can't do any better. It's convinced us we don't deserve anything better. But, like with every breakup, the best solution is to move on. And the people on Reddit are right. It is the first 3 months that are the hardest. And it got me thinking about my first 3 months back in 2020. What I did and what I had to become now that I was sober. What I did to move on. Because that's the thing with breakups. There's a blinding bright side that you have to remember. Now that you're single, you're free to find something better. My stop date was June 21st, 2020. I got sober at a really weird time because it was smack dab in the middle of COVID. The world had shut down, people were rioting in the streets for toilet paper, Rick Grimes had just woken up in the hospital, it was the whole 9 yards. I had gone into the hospital on June 21st for the 12th time that year for alcohol detox and decided to get sober. If you want more details, read A Power Greater Than Me on this site. It goes into the whole story. But the short version is I finally had that moment of clarity all the drunks talk about, and I wanted the change. I was living with my parents. My girlfriend Sarah had kicked me out 8 months ago, and I was unemployed. But I was alive. The first thing I did when I got out of the hospital was I texted Sarah and told her that I stopped drinking. Her response was, "Cool, how long this time?" And in fairness, I kind of deserved that. I told her I didn't know, but I felt different this time. She was happy for me, and she was excited too, and she told me to let her know if I needed anything from her. But if I needed anything purely in a friend context. So now it had been 5 days since I stopped, and I felt new. Problem is, I didn't really know what to do now. I had already been to rehab, and that didn't work. I'd been to AA, that didn't work. Been to IOP, tried Vivitrol, jail, psych ward, none of that stuck. So truthfully, I didn't know what my next move was. So I started going to the outreach program downtown. Outreach was an outpatient program where you went and talked to a counselor and they checked in on you and they gave you tools to use to maintain sobriety. But here was the issue. There was nothing they were telling me that I didn't already know. They were telling me all these tactics that I had already learned in rehab. And if it didn't work then, why would now be any different? I kept going to outreach and I kept journaling, kept doing their exercises, but honestly, it just felt like I was going through the numbers. I kept getting to the part where they would ask me why I was getting sober, and honestly, the only reason I could come up with was I didn't want to die. But in reality, I kind of hated my life, so why would I care if I died? This wasn't working, and as the weeks went by, I could feel myself starting to slip again and become hopeless. That's when it dawned on me. It was simple. It was simpler than I was making it. If none of these things worked in the past, stop trying to make them work now. I needed to come at it from a different angle and look at it from another perspective. I needed to do something that I hadn't done before. I had to become a completely different person. I was still living a life I couldn't stand, and that's why it wasn't working. I was trying new things but staying my old self, and that person was selfish. That person only cared about getting sober because they didn't want to be a loser. It was all vanity. It was all about them. I had to become something new. I had to think of other people. I had to love something more than me. My thoughts raced through my mind and I tried to organize them. I was miserable. My life was miserable. And I tried to think of the last time I didn't feel so frustrated. The last time I didn't feel hopeless. And I realized for the first time in years that it wasn't when I was a teacher. It was when I was with Sarah. And that night, I realized the single most important thing I would ever realize in my entire life. Sarah was the key. None of this worked before because I was doing it for myself, but I'm not sure I even liked myself anymore. But I loved her. And like lightning, it hit me. Don't do this for me. Do it for her. And then it was clear. I had to get Sarah back. So, I had my new perspective going on and a bunch of new revelations. They told me in rehab to stay single for the first year and focus on my sobriety. But again, all that stuff I had learned from rehab didn't work previously. I had to try something new. The past 10 years of my life had absolutely sucked rocks, and the only bright spot had been Sarah and those kids. So logically, I had to try and get that back. Well, the problem is I'm not a raving lunatic who is just going to force myself into her life and make her be with me. It doesn't work like that. Well, it shouldn't work like that anyhow. She didn't deserve me as I was. I had to become the person she did deserve. A new Bob, if you will. And new Bob needed a job. Actually, new Bob needed a career. So that's how I spent the second month, blanketing the internet with my resume. I didn't want to get back into teaching because old Bob was a teacher. I didn't actually know what the hell I wanted to do. I kept talking to Sarah and she told me she had met a guy online and she was talking to him. And I was pretending like it wasn't completely destroying me listening to it as I continued running my campaign for the mayor of Friend Zone. I met a girl online too, but honestly, it was 90% retaliatory. This was a tough period. This was the time when I really didn't know what was going to happen next. Was she going to start dating that other guy she was talking to? Was she going to marry him? Would he be Pumpkin's new stepdad? Would he be Blur's new uncle? Would there be a huge internet campaign started where people would have to decide if they were Team Bob or Team New Guy? But again, the things I can control. Try to focus on the stuff that I can control. Long story short, I ended up getting a job selling floors. It was temporary and I wasn't even sure I wanted to do it, but it was good for the time being. Total side note, at time of writing, I've been there for 4 years, 8 months, I'm one of the top reps, and I help train the new people. So, go figure. But the best part about my new job was I had to do a month of online training, so it gave me an excuse to come back to Sarah's house. The internet at my parents' house sucked, so every day for a month, I would come to Sarah's, do my training all day, and then that night we would hang out. Incidentally, for the people keeping track at home, this was also the time period where I came super damn close to relapsing, but I didn't. Read parking lots on this site for that story. It was going great. We were laughing together like old times. I was making dinners, bringing pizza over, watching TV. It was like we were a family again. I was almost happy. I was 2 months sober. I had the beginnings of a new job. Sarah was at least entertaining the idea of keeping me in her life. It was almost perfect. There was only one thing, one wrench in the gears, one candy bar in the pool. Sarah was still adamant we were never getting back together and we would always just be friends from now on. And that wasn't going to change. And honestly, I was starting to learn to live with that reality. Like I had said in an earlier blog, Maybe these things you thought were supposed to be forever, maybe they're better left as memories. Maybe this wasn't the life I was supposed to have. Maybe when it all came down to it, Sarah and I were always meant to be friends. Maybe that was our story. Or maybe not. I was about to enter into my 3rd month of sobriety, and I couldn't have known it at the time. But this 3rd month was going to be the greatest month of my entire life.